Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, bringing you another replay from Total War Warhammer. And this time, I'm up against the one and only Gobbo King, also known as the first Everchosen. He's the he's the uniter, I guess. In any event, me and Gobbo are participating in a tournament that I believe is showing later this week. So we were doing a few practice games and some other stuff, just so we were kind of on the same page about a couple things. Also, we were just having fun. Gobbo is someone I actually genuinely enjoyed playing, which I can't say for everyone, but I can say for him. Not naming any names. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. As you can see, I am bringing Beastmen, led by Morgur the Shadowgave, against the Gobbo King's Tomb Kings. So to go over army composition real quick, because we get into it very quickly, I've got, I believe, one unit of Ungor Herd with shields, and I've got 2 units of Bestigor, one of which is Korok's Man Rippers, which are just a must-have against Tomb Kings, because Tomb Kings really are going to have to rely on their constructs against the Beastmen. So these guys are just they're just a guaranteed great pick. Also just a super cool unit in general. And I've got 2 units of Gore Herds with shields, who will fight pretty well in combat and can also absorb missile fire if need be. Then I've got a unit of Ungor Spearman Herd and the Destroyers of the Drakwold, who, of course, are Spearmen with shields that have poison attacks, which are just also fantastic for taking out nasty constructs. Then, on the woods on either side, I think... Heck, I could have sworn I had another hound unit. Maybe not. So I've got my Chaos Warhounds with poison here, along with my Senegor with great weapons. Then I've got a Bray Shaman of Death, who has Fate of Biuna, Soul Blight, and Spirit Leech, as well as the Jagged Dagger for magic recharge. 2 units of Ungor Raiders. Then the Eye of Morslib, who's probably my favorite regiment around so far in the entire game. Obviously, that'll change when the Lizardmen ones come out. And a single Ungor Spearman Herd to protect him. Meanwhile, Gobbo's got 2 units of Carrion that started off very close to me, and we're already throwing crap at each other. He's also got 2 units of Nehekara Horsemen, which are the next highest rank. Then he has 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Toongar with Halberds. So probably expecting Minotaurs, but if nothing else, they will hold the line pretty well, and they do have armor-piercing damage, which will be helpful against my Bestigors. And he also has King to catch his Scorpion Legion, and then just a line of Spearmen, of course, probably to prevent backplay. So let's go ahead and hop into it, full speed. So already, I've caught we kind of had a mutual charge over here. Meanwhile, I also had a mutual charge over here. I sent my Centaurs with great weapons and hounds to grab these horsemen. But he has thrown an Overcast Joss Incantation of Cursed Blades, which does some anti-large damage, so they're going to actually pull that fight out pretty well. Here, the Carrion are, of course, jumping on me everywhere they can. I'm trying to... thankfully, one of them's busy over here, so I'm able to sort of crossfire here. In the front line, our lines have met pretty heartily. I basically just charged in everywhere I could, and of course the Eye of Morslib is just chucking rocks as hard as it can. I do throw down a Soul Blight here, and I kind of swarm all over the Cimmerian War Sphinx with poison and the Soul Blight, but he manages to slip away. Here, despite the anti-large bonus, I was actually incorrect earlier. I knew something fled, but I couldn't remember what. But even with the anti-large bonus, these guys are just not going to be able to overwhelm the Centaurs, who are just chopping them to bits. Of course, the poison Warhounds did help a lot with that. So over here, I send my Ungor Spearman Herd, while my Deathcaster tries to get a charge in the back, but I kind of goofed up the order because I'm still trying to learn how to use chariots really efficiently. Meanwhile, I'm throwing boulders here. A couple of my units are breaking and fleeing from combat, but we are holding strong here. I do see this War Sphinx mowing around, so I summon a unit of Chaos Spawn to try and hold him down, while I've got some Ungor Herd coming in from behind here. Oh, that's what I had. I had a bonus unit of Ungor Herd coming around the back. So meanwhile over here, Cetra basically comes wailing into the Eye of Morslib, but I drop a Spirit Leech on him. I've got a unit of archers pecking at him. These guys are coming in, and the Eye of Morslib actually trades really well with Cetra during this fight. Cetra only has 42 melee defense, but the Eye of Morslib has 52. And he also does magic damage with his melee attack. So this incantation of protection isn't doing anything for Cetra right now. The Eye of Morslib is just cutting through it like butter. I believe the curse has activated. Yep. Which is not going to do anything to my caster or the Cygor, but it will hurt the Ungor Spearman hurt a little bit. Other than that, just to get a quick another look at the battlefield, we did manage to take down those horsemen with the Centaurs, and when the Warhounds rallied, they ran back in and helped deal with the Carrion and the horsemen as well. Here, the horsemen managed to outrun my Goreherd with shields, and he's getting all up in my Cav's face, tearing them apart. While meanwhile over here I have a unit of best score that's holding very nicely, and here I got a charge with my Ungor herd, and against Skeletal Spearmen they will absolutely decimate that battle. And then in the big blob over here, one of his Tomb Guard units insta-died and turned into a unit of Chaos Spawn for me, which is great so far. And I've got a really powerful blob here. So here he's obviously trying to do what he can to get rid of the Eye of Morslib. I drop Soul Blight on Cetra the Imperishable so I can do quite a bit of damage to him. And the Brave Shaman of Death also, he only has 29 melee attack, but he has a charge bonus of 76, which means whenever he runs into Cetra, if I understand it correctly, he's adding that to his melee attack, which just is devastating. So here he's chasing my archers around. I do send in the Death Wizard to hold up these guys so my archers can rally. My Centaurs charged these King Catch the Scorpion Legion in the rear, which did do a little bit of damage and get them away from the Eye of Morslib, but unfortunately wasn't able to do much other than that. Death Wizards run around trying to avoid the double War Sphinx. These archers have rallied. Centaurs are fleeing for the hills. I'm winning handfully over here. I send my Death Wizard over to help out as the Tomb Kings over there are completely collapsing. Here, these Tomb Guard with Halberds tried to get on the Eye of Morslib, but I used his ability, which froze them in place. And at this point, Gobbo notices that they're free again, starts moving towards me, and I realize that I need to book it, because this guy is crucial. Back here, the summoned Ushabti came out and absolutely wrecked my Ungor herd, and they basically run forward to engage my summoned units of the Chaos Spawn. But with Korok's Man Rippers and the Destroyers of the Drakwald, we should easily be able to tear them limb from limb. Deathcaster's still doing really, really well. The War Sphinxes come in and terror out a bunch of my Beastmen over here. But I do have another unit of Spearmen coming in to help here, and I realize that the Eye of Morslib is pretty much screwed if I don't get him the hell out of dodge, because all these units are anti-large, along with poison and a double War Sphinx powwow. So I basically start running towards my anti-large units as fast as I can. I am trying so hard to get this guy to just move his butt. In the meantime, because he's so busy trying to tie down the Eye of Morslib, all of my Beastmen managed to rally before they hit the edge of the battlefield, except for the Centaurs. So they all start immediately running back towards the fight. The Cygor literally trips at the finish line and falls flat on his face on top of Korok's Man Rippers, but does manage to get to safety, where all of my Spearman units can engage his. I throw down a Soul Blight, which is countering the Tomb Guard's other nasty stuff. In the meantime, he does manage to get rid of this best Gore herd and his Gore herd with shield by just beating them up and sending them running. Eye of Morslib is back to chucking boulders. Great pastime. Meanwhile, my archers are shooting into these Nehekarn horsemen, trying to get rid of them so I can get the Tomb King's mobility off the field. My Deathcaster does run in to provide some really crucial support. And you can see he did shatter whatever the hell he was fighting there. I think it was Ungor Spearman herd. Yeah, so they're shattered and gone. But the Deathcaster runs in, and him with the archers should be able to overwhelm them just through sheer numbers. Meanwhile, in the back, he's basically... I'm trying to protect all of my flanks. I do run these Ungor herd all the way around the outside and charge them in to get a rear on these Tomb Guard to try and make them fall apart. Morker does pop Call of Violence for the leadership bonus, and the Death Wizard runs in to cause a bunch of damage. I'm also spam casting at this point Spirit Leech onto Cetra. I brought Fate of Buna, but I really don't like using it. I brought it kind of as a just in case and ended up not using it once throughout the entire game, which I'm thrilled about because I don't like that spell right now. I think it needs to be looked at a little bit, though I also think the Lore of Life could use a little tweaking too. In any event, at this point, I realized that I need to do something because he's able to just kind of be able to cycle charge through me. Morgar I set to dealing with the Tomb Guard with Halberds because he's an excellent matchup for them in that he's, between his poison and decent weapon strength, he'll just tear through them over time. Towards the Drakewald, kind of try and chase Cetra to do a little bit of damage, but I don't really manage to get on him that much. We start poking the Nehekara horsemen down. Over here, though, we do get a full surround thanks to some rallying gore herds with shields. And the Death Wizard is just constantly cycle charging. Meanwhile, the Eye of Morslib basically just keeps backing up and then throwing a boulder. And at this point, I'm trying really, really hard to get his boulder to get rid of these spearmen. Because the thing about the boulders is not only do they do considerable damage, but when the Eye of Morslib hits you with a boulder, it causes a leadership penalty due to being hit by artillery. So at this point, I realize that he kind of needs to fight to get these guys off of him, and I run into Brace Shaman of Death to try and muck up these guys and get Cetra to hold still. I also pop Warp Gaze on him because I've got Korok's Man-Rippers coming in, and I've got the Deathcaster on him, and I'm just trying, also with Morgar, as hard as I can to kill this guy. The Eye of Morslib is just wailing on people, doing his best. He's holding the line, he's got plus 16 leadership, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Meanwhile, my Gore Herd with shields back here unfortunately get rear charged by these Nehekara horsemen I still haven't managed to get rid of, and just kind of start falling apart. So at this point, I just have the Eye of Morslib point blank chucking rocks into Tombguard with halberds as they get flank charged by Korok's Man-Rippers. And the wizard does try to chase Cetra the Imperishable, but I end up getting outmaneuvered by Gobbo, and he basically forces me to have to start running away because the Nehekaran horsemen are too heavy for me to push through, and this other War Sphinx was jumping on my face. So I'm basically running for my life at this point because I need this Deathcaster to stay alive. These halberds have pretty much all gone, and I'm getting a little desperate now to get rid of some of these units, so I'm trying to figure out a good target for the Eye of Morslib, whether it's Cetra or these Cav. I'm trying to get away from these halberds because they're just sort of nicking and diming me to death, but he goes in for another big slam here. We get another flank charge with the Deathcaster, which isn't super satisfying, but, you know, it does damage and causes the unit's leadership to completely just flub, and it basically collapses. At this point, the Nehekaran horsemen come in, and they are really desperately trying to knock this Cygor out, but he just hits like an absolute truck, and he's still above 1,000 HP, and every time he hits, like 3 or 4 people just drop dead, thanks to his really high melee attack. And the magic damage doesn't hurt either, because even if he uses Incantation Protection, it's just not going to matter. So at this point, Morgar and the Korok's Man-Rippers, I realize that there's no point in trying to chase him, because that's something I see a lot of really good players do, is they'll try and lure you into chasing like a really weak unit, and I don't want to waste my time with that. So I do send my Deathcaster off to solo him, which ends up being kind of a mistake, because he just sort of ends up powwowing me. But the Eye of Morslib is still alive with about 400 HP, and as long as he's next to my general, thanks to the balance of power, I'm going to be able to stay up. At this point, I run forward, and I'm trying as hard as I can to finish off Cetra. I just need Cetra to go down. But he pops the Blessed Blade of Patra, which only works if he hits me. At this point, I just sort of get desperate, so I just chuck a rock at him. He just goes down. He just takes a boulder right to the frickin' side, right to the face, and just goes down in a heap. So at this point, I do have enough forces left that I feel really confident in my victory. The Death Shaman's running off, and basically he has to charge me because I'm just going to throw rocks at him. And these rocks will do a couple hundred damage. Like, they will... The Eye of Morslib is accurate enough that he can easily hit this guy if he's not running, you know, in circles. So he comes in for a charge, and he gets a good hit, and the Eye of Morslib goes down. But he kind of came right into the center of the army. So pop Call of Violence to make sure we're not suffering from any terror, and Korok's Man-Rippers are on this guy like butter on bread, and then the Destroyers of Drakewald run in, but of course he's collapsing due to army losses, and with that, the Tomb Kings collapse. What a game. Very long game, but it was a ton of fun. It was very stressful. Really came down to the last. Gobbo played excellently. You know, kind of after the game, I think he had a couple of little regrets about taking a list that had so much anti-large, but he played it just masterfully. As for the schematics at the end, Morgar Shadowgave got 76 kills, just being a beast, you know, really just running in and beating up halberds and spearmen. Really, he's not super useful for his how much damage he does, but rather summoning the Chaos Spawn, which can auto-kill a weakened unit, which is really useful against an army like Undead, who can regenerate or heal, especially when Realm of Souls goes off. And also summon another unit, which was pretty much critical for getting those rear charges and tearing people up. The Death Brace Shaman is probably the first time I think I've played a Chariot even moderately well, because usually I'm pretty bad with them. Like, I I tell them to charge, and I manage to get them stuck because I'm just bad. But he performed really well, and I felt really satisfied with my performance. Considering the only spells I cast were Soul Blight and Spirit Leech, that means those 71 kills came purely from him charging and running people over, which is great. Ungor Spearman Herd, they did their job. They didn't really get any kills, but they held the line. And more importantly, they protected the Cygor from any easy early game advantages. The Gore Herd with shields, obviously this one did much better than this one. I think this one ended up fighting Spearmen instead of Halberds. The Bestigors did extremely well. Korax Man Rippers got 151 kills, which is freaking ridiculous. Obviously, a lot of that was against Tomb King infantry, but in the end, they were just pretty much, once the Halberds went down, the Tomb Kings just really didn't have a realistic way to deal with them. Just because the War Sphinxes couldn't afford to charge them without taking a bunch of damage, and they would just, you know, hack them to bits. Swords the Drakewald did extremely well, as did the regular Bestigors. They killed a ton of people, and the Swords the Drakewald were excellent with their poison and negating effects. Ungor Raiders didn't get a lot of kills, but they did put a ton of damage onto Setra the Imperishable as he was riding around, and the regular War Sphinx. That's primarily what I think they're best for, is just, you know, nickel and diming people. Centaur's great weapons got 50 kills, which they pretty much exclusively got from taking out the Carrion and this unit of Nehekar Horsemen that only got 38 kills. This was the unit that got tied up with them and the Warhounds, and they just sort of managed to tear them all up. And then finally, the Eye of Morsalib got nearly 200 kills, just because he was alive for most of the game, and he was just chucking boulders like a madman. One of those which of course was Setra, which that's probably my favorite Cygor clip that I have now, is him just smacking him in the side and Setra just going down. As for Gobbo, he got really good kills across the board. There were a couple units you can tell kind of got gimped by like a really nasty charge. Like both the Carrion, they did their job of just kind of holding the line and being annoying. This unit that hit the Senegor ones didn't really get a lot done, just kind of fell apart, but they did help support the Horsemen, so they held me there for a while. While these Carrion got into my archers and actually managed to do an annoying amount of damage and just keep me shooting for a bit. The Spearmen performed surprisingly well. This unit, they may have fought Korax Man Rippers or maybe the Bestigors or something, but they just got bodied. But the rest of them actually got a surprising number of kills, and the Tomb Guard performed extremely well. Obviously, some of those kills came against Ungors and Gore Herds, but I mean, my regular Bestigor unit kind of got deleted by getting held down by Tomb Guard and then just collapsed on by the War Sphinx. Setra and the Cimmerian War Sphinx got a ton of kills, and the War Sphinx earned that triple chevron. And then, of course, this group of Nehekar Horsemen was the real MVP of the entire game, getting 202 kills and only one chevron from that, surprisingly, which probably means that they were wiping out a lot of the smaller units and just getting them to shatter. So the Ungor Raiders, the Ungor Spearman Herd, the Ungor Herd, and the Gore Herds. There's a lot of times where if you look, you see them kind of fighting off in the back and to the side against one of my isolated units and getting them to break and run away and getting them to shatter. So, I mean, that was just a really pro play by Gobbo with those horsemen. You know, they made it all the way to the end, despite the fact that I kind of made a concentrated effort to try and kill them, but he just juked around me and, you know, just tore me apart. The only reason I caught the other unit is because I had poison units involved. And I think when he overcast the Joff's Cursed Blades, he had hoped that would give him the edge against the Centaurs, but unfortunately Centaur's stat line was just too much better than the Horsemen. Coupled with the poison, they were just able to tear them apart. But in any event, I hope you guys enjoyed the game. More coming in the future. Tomorrow should be the last part of the Norska Q&A, part 3. I think it's the last part. And then after that, the following day is going to start the Future of the Vampire Counts. So if tomorrow is Wednesday, I think, then Future of the Vampire Counts Part 1, as it will also be split up as we continue this experiment, will come out the following day, in the morning. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.